So I have a lot of customers in my audience that are business owners, that are service-based businesses, that are lawyers, doctors, a lot of service-based local
Mhm.
businesses. And what I find is that the guys that do put systems like this in place, the ones that have not only leads coming in the door, but have this authority, that have this the ability to show those leads that they are, the authority,
Yes.
they can afford to go out and get more leads, or they can also afford to go out and get higher quality leads because of the systems they have in place. And so what happens
Certainly.
is what I've noticed is this, and let me know if this is what happens when you're working with clients, because I see that the difference between somebody that, sees a typical ad and then calls the office or comes in or is like a lead that you bought from some service, then it's like some third party. They've already called they're getting called by everybody else, compared to somebody who gets into your kind of machine and sees your follow-up sequences and sees that, whoa, these guys are next level. And it kind of flips the script, almost like you go from trying to sell your services to instead them wanting to hire you and you sort of filtering out them. And does that happen when they work with you?
Yeah. So you've hit on so many important things in just the question that we're going to have a lot to cover in the
Hmm.
answer. First of all, you've
Sweet.
identified that these are client-based businesses. And we have to remember that at the end of the day, in the first thing in the morning, you are serving clients. And so if you aren't doing a great job serving clients, then your reputation is going to suffer for it. And so we have to get back to some real basics. When you think of like the dentist you went to as a child or the vet that you would go to with your first pet, like these are people from a generation ago that were giving great service, and great service is still something people talk about. And so in the book, we reference what we consider the four fundamentals, the foundations of a good business. And they include number one, that you have a client-centered team that recognizes that we're providing a service here. And so we have to be client-centered. The way that translates into generating business, though, is that from the second a lead, a phone call, or a digital lead, an e-lead comes into your ecosystem, they are learning about your business, how you operate. And so how the person is met on the phone, the response that they get if they make an online inquiry, the number of times that you follow up with them because you're thorough, that's going to say a lot about the way you conduct business. And I've often said this with law firms that we work with. You better make sure your client service is ready to pick up the baton when your new client finishes intake, because your intake is going to be so thorough and complete and on the ball that you better be prepared to do just the same in the next level of your business. Because if you want that business so badly, you need to be prepared to service that client. So you're nailing it right there when it's like, okay, this is what it's like to work with our business. Don't you want to be with us? I'm going to start that call by asking my goodness, how are you? You just told me that you've been involved in a serious accident. I am so sorry to hear that. How are you? Shockingly, that is not something I often hear when I'm listening to law firm intakes. So right now you have to accept that what your intake looks like is very likely a reflection of what an engagement with your law firm looks like. You also mentioned authority, and I look at the two things that prospects are looking for when they come to a law firm is both empathy and authority. Nobody calls a lawyer because they're having a good day. This is not planning a vacation or a kitchen renovation. You're calling a lawyer in all likelihood because something has gone very badly. And so you need someone who's going to make that person feel heard and understood. And that's what empathy is. But the reality is that 95% of people calling a law firm have never done so before, which is why you do need to have the system really well dialed in, because a lot of people calling a law firm, you're not going to be able to help. And so if you have somebody who's not sure what they're doing, you need to have authority. You need to tell them, this is what we do. This is why we do it better than our competitors. This is what you need to do so that we can solve this problem for you. And again, you've got law firm intake specialists who they may have nailed things on the empathy side, but they're not leading the client. And people doing something for the first time are very likely going to be in need of a leader, someone who can show them, this is what we do all day, every day, and we can solve this problem for you. So you've nailed it. We need client service and we need authority. sprinkle in that empathy too to make people feel heard and understood.